It's time for me to do my thing. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and it's actually nice in Atlanta. Surprisingly so, given what's going on a little further south.
Yeah, you aren't kidding. It's amazing. So you guys didn't get hit at all?
So far we haven't, and it really looks like it's gonna be. It moved pretty far south, so I don't even know if we're gonna get much of any kind of impact from it. But you never know what happens. The
Well,
weather.
we had some friends, indirect friends, I'll call them, in Port Charlotte, and they lucked out. I mean, they were right in the path, and basically, a truck window got blown out, some shingles got blown off, and there was the tiny bit of. I don't even think they even had any flooding, and they were lucky because they were literally in the center of the.
Wow.
Port Charlotte was right down the middle.
Well, unfortunately, I think our friends that live in what part of Charleston, South Carolina, I think they're getting ready to get hit. And our buddy, both of our buddies, Steve and Tina Gilmore, they have residence there, but I hope it won't be too bad there.
Well, I think, as far as I know, didn't the winds, haven't they gone down to like 65 miles an hour now? Which is still rough. But
but they're going to go over the Atlantic with the warm water, and apparently it could actually turn back into a hurricane again. I mean, this weather is just so strange.
I know. Virginia's supposed to get, like we're supposed to get, between 2 and 3 inches maybe, but Yvonne and I are leaving for New York tomorrow, so we'll get a little bit of rain. We'll get 0.3 inches of rain in New York, and that's it.
0.3.
Yeah.
Well,
right in the heart of the hurricane, obviously.
Well, we really wish everybody the best of luck with the hurricane and things, but maybe to brighten the mood a little bit, I have a little something that I think is going to make the venerable Paul Greenberg kind of happy.
Every time. Oh, I know what it is.
Do you? All right.
I think so.
Let's see if you do. Here we go.
I'll see.
And the 3-2.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. I knew it.
Could be it. See ya. He's done it.
I knew it was that.
61.
This was so sweet that the whole thing is so sweet too. Watch Mom and Roger Maris Jr. there.
Yeah.
Roger Maris Jr. is a class act.
Season in American League history.
Did you see what Mom was saying? She was going, I called it.
Well, she called it every time he came up. Let's not get carried away here.
I said you were going to do it tonight and last night and the night before. And the night before. That was amazing.
And I was right. Let me get caught up here. Wow, we do have a bit of an upset because our first commenter of the day is not Sven. It's Adrian. Hey, Adrian.
And congratulations on your new book. What's it? It's called The Accidental Community, if I remember correctly. I have it coming. Actually, I ordered it this morning. Interestingly enough,
you know what? We can't greet him. He said, "Hey, friends." We can't just say, "Hey, Adrian." You know what we got to say in return, right? Yo, Adrian.
Oh God, I knew somehow you were going there.
I had to do it.
No, it's fair. I mean, it's fair. Hey, Adrian, put up your info into the LinkedIn comments for your book, okay? With the link too.
You know what? This is a really interesting day because look, Chris Pennington.
Good to see Chris.
Yeah, and not only that, Thomas snuck in there
ahead of Sven.
I feel like Mother Nature has answered here, so maybe it's impacted the speed of Sven's getting his comment in, and so. I don't know what language that is, Finn, but do you?
I'm guessing it's something in the Scandinavian universe. So I'm could be Swedish.
All right, Sven, you got to let us know. I'm not spending much time on that one.
Larry.
Hey, you see, Yo Larry just doesn't have the same impact as Yo Adrian,
No, of course not.
we're still glad to see you, Larry. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Adrian, I'd like to say I'm sorry, but I'm actually not.
Yeah, but that would be a really big lie at this point.
Yeah, huge lie.
LinkedIn killed my first Oh, so Sven is basically, passing the buck and blaming it on.
Wow, LinkedIn killed the radio star.
Yeah.
What
Hope
wasn't
it
that the
doesn't
name
do
of
that
the?
with
Wasn't
video.
that a song? LinkedIn something killed the radio star.
Come on, no, it
I
wasn't.
don't remember the name
It was
of it.
video killed the radio star.
Video killed the radio.
The
Wasn't
very
LinkedIn-
first video played on YouTube by the Buggles. How do I
Wow,
know this? How do I remember this?
that one I don't know how you know.
Well, I was
I
in
know-
the wheelhouse. I became a teenager the year MTV came out. I was fully entrenched, as they say.
The
I don't know who-
accidental community manager, not the accidental community.
Man.
Again, link.
Sven, no worries, man.
No, but what's the language? Do you Sven? You're still first in our heart.
Yeah,
And-
he's worried about the positioning. Don't worry about it.
You're in there, Sven. You're always number one.
good.
You have to realize that. And
Always-
Adrian, put in the link to the book.
Now you
Danish.
gotta say, yo, Adrian, put in the link to the
Yo, Adrian, put
There
in
it
the
is.
link to the book. That doesn't
All right.
sound right. Sound like, yo, Adrian, I'm going to punch you in the face. But
Well,
instead, it's, yo, Adrian, put in the link to the book.
Yeah, well,
That is
Rocky never
definitely 21st century version of that.
Rocky never technically punched Adrian in the face. So
That's true.
go along with that. All right.
I know. But oh wait,
We gotta did we
Sven-
ever get an answer to the question?
yeah, Sven has it
Oh, where is it?
right above Adrian's name.
Danish.
Yeah, I knew it was Scandinavian. I didn't know which.
Now I'm hungry.
My first instinct was actually to go with Danish, but I had no
My first
coffee.
pick is always to go with Danish. I don't do coffee, so it would be like juice in Danish.
Yeah, man. All right, so Adrian Spire has the link to the book. Okay, everyone, note that. Click on it from the comments. Order the book. If Adrian, I haven't read it yet because I haven't gotten it yet, but I will tell you, if Adrian wrote it, it's good. I guarantee that he knows what he's
I was
talking
waiting
about.
to see how you're going to give a recommendation to a book you hadn't read yet.
Well, because I know who wrote it. It's good enough for me.
All right, well, there it is. So you don't even have to read the book. You just get it, never read it. Just
Get it, meet Adrian, get it, and then meet Adrian and don't read it.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
you've never
right.
heard that before. All right, one last one here. Everyone, see, Larry knows. But can you
Oh
name the
my
second
God.
song? Ooh, Larry coming with the trivia. Anybody out there, do you know the answer to Larry's trivia, which is everyone knows Video Killed the Radio Star, but can you name the second song ever played on it? Whoa, that's
Wow.
I want to say, wonder if there's a lot of songs that I liked that and during that era that were like MTV made real famous. Like there's an Adam Ant song that I really like from that era. I don't know if it's Adam Ant or if it's the dudes, the Madhouse dudes with Our House, or the Come On Eileen with the Dexys Midnight Runners.
No,
I don't know.
Song, it is. It's a song called "The Family of the Radio Star in Revenge Killed Video."
All right, Larry, you got to tell us because I don't think any. I Michael Jackson, maybe. I
I don't know.
Too hard. Let us know. Well, let us know who it is.
I was already 80 when MTV came out, so it didn't matter.
Okay. Before we get too far along, because we do have I was going to say we have a guest, but technically he's not really a guest. I mean, he's one of us. He's
exactly.
yeah.
PIR, man.
Yeah, playing resident. So, but he's doing something really well. He wrote some on LinkedIn that caught my attention and it caught a lot of people's attention about some of the things he's doing and working on, and that's why we're going to bring him on and treat him as a pseudo guest, not quite all the way. We'll roll out the carpet halfway.
It would be like as if my brother Bob was on the show.
Yeah, that.
So sort of a guest, but not really a guest.
Yeah. Or Bob Stutz, like who just
right
comes in and takes over, and we're perfectly fine with that. All right, but anyway.
By the way, wait. By the way, that was an opening for a PPN commercial.
Okay.
Right. Bob Stutz, now that we're speaking of him, will have his own show beginning probably, we're not going to say for sure, but either the fourth quarter this year, first quarter next year, entitled At the End of the Day with Bob Stutz, once a quarter, where Bob will, let's say, opine on what he thinks about things, and uniquely will pick his own host since he's always the guest, right? So this is going to be a unique show. It's called At the End of the Day with Bob Stutz. And those of you who have heard us with him will understand why it's called At the End of the Day with Bob Stutz when you listen to just a past broadcast. So stay tuned. It will be up on the PPN website, playasproductions.network. Go to it. I won't say subscribe because there's no way to subscribe. So just go to it and take a look and stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Why is this not working? I hate when things don't work. Because I did have a couple of promos for the network, and for whatever reason, StreamYard is not allowing me to load this PowerPoint. So, well, in the meantime, Larry is giving us a hint. The guitar player on the song is Neil Giraldo.
I have no idea.
Spy.
It does not help me one iota.
Yeah.
I'll look him up.
I remember Geraldo, but I'm guessing it's not that dude. Rico Suave Geraldo. Remember that guy?
He was, yeah, of course I do. No, he was Pat Benatar's partner, it says.
Oh, so is a Pat Benatar Hit Me With Your Best Shot, maybe? Or what's that other one? You better run, you better hide. I don't know. That's pretty much the extent of the.
Oh, wait! You better run. That was
it. So I got it right.
Yep, you better run. I just looked it up.
Oh, that was, and look, I had no idea. Hey, Steven.
Hey, Steve.
Apparently, I was in the running, but I got the "You better run, you better hide." All right.
That was it literally says in Neil Giraldo's biography. You better run. You better hide with the second song ever played on MTV. It literally says that.
So that's like his claim to fame, then?
It's one of them. He has a huge, long biography with a lot of awards. Apparently, and Larry confirms this is true, the guy was like a major, major guitar player and a lauded one, too.
Why do I not know who this dude is, then?
I don't either, and I love guitar players.
Oh, well. Good one, Larry. That one definitely got me because I thought I knew my early MTV history, but apparently I have to go back and study it, and I really don't want to because it's useless, but it's fun. All right. Okay. So we did find out that in the next, I think it's 2 weeks from today, we are going to have a special guest on because we're leading into, we're both going to be going to Cloud World, Oracle Cloud World, the conference formerly known as Open World. It's now called Cloud World. And we're going to be there and we're going to be doing another live show, but we're going to lead into that with a conversation with, you want to tell them who it's going to be with?
Sure. It's with Rob Tarkoff. Now, Rob's been on before. He's been a friend of ours for years and years. In fact, he was my client at Lithium for about 7 years, and I knew him when he was at Adobe in Edition all the way back. Now, as you know, Oracle's had got a lot of, let's say, flack and concern over all the layoffs that occurred. What was it, about 6 weeks ago or so, maybe 2 months. One of the things that's going to make this show a little different is we are going to depend on you guys to get on this call, on the show and ask him questions. And he's promised he's happy to answer any questions you might have. Now, that said, if we watch these competitive, stupid questions coming up, we're not going to broadcast them. So these got to be serious questions where he can answer directly what happened, right? So But don't get into sniping or any crap like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that ain't allowed.
No.
You know, this is meant to so that you guys can get your questions answered on the layoffs of Oracle CX if it mattered to you at all. If it didn't matter to you at all, come and listen anyway, because Rob's a really good guy and knows his stuff.
Yeah, and like PJ said, there are legitimate questions and concerns, and those kinds of questions, Rob, I think will be more than happy to answer. But no sniper shot. We're not going to ask. We're not going to put it up on screen. If it's something that comes across as too snarky, no, we're not doing that. But if there are legitimate questions, absolutely.
This
Ready
is
to-
basically a show you guys are supposed to help us with here. We got answers that we wanted on analyst briefings and things like that. But Rob's at this point wants to go public and talk about
Yeah.
it. So it's time.
It's time. And we're also hoping, as part of our cloud world in coverage. Is it coverage, or we just go in there, we talk or whatever?
Well, we have a show we're doing there, actually.
Yeah, we do. We to be determined who the actual guest is, but we have a hope. It's going to be someone that no one really gets to hear from, which is we know this person for years at this point. We usually only get a chance to speak with this person once a year in kind of an analyst gaggle. And we are so hoping that we'll be able to have him as our guest to have a CRM Playaz style conversation, because we think it would just be fantastic. So,
and he's a wonderful guy too. He really is. Listen, one other thing I want to clarify: you can work for a competitor of Oracle and ask questions.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right? I just want to make. I'm not saying if you work for a competitor, don't ask. I'm just saying don't ask snarky, stupid, competitive questions. But if you work for a competitor, feel free to answer or to ask what you like.
Well, and you can actually put it in the comment section. It just won't be read and showed out
Right.
loud, so we can't control.
And if it's really as let's say really effed up, I'll delete it. Right. So
can we call that person out though? That would be kind of fun though. Before you delete it.
I would be happy to. I would be glad to do that.
All right. Before we bring on our non-guest, I like kind of saying that. Since we're trying to bring this Playaz production network, kind of put more and more spotlight on the shows and all that kind of stuff. I have a new segment that I haven't even told Paul about, but he's, of course,
doesn't matter. I'm with it. I go with it. Makes no difference. I only need to know if I have to say words in it.
Well, you definitely have to say words.
No, I mean I need to know at the time.
Oh, okay. All. I'll cue you.
Not prior.
Like right now.
Oh.
So.
It's
a game called. It's not not as MTV-ish as Larry, but who said this?
We've done 13 years of episodes. What do you think I'm going to remember?
Well, it could be something said across any of the network shows. Okay.
Oh, even better. That makes it easier.
And actually,
so much easier.
So
to be honest, if I said it, I won't remember. So,
so I'm going to share the quote. Hold on a second. I want to make sure I got everything queued up for this one. All right, there it is. All right, so here is the quote. This is what was said.
Yep.
Data informs people. Stories move people. Experiences compel people.
Whoever said it's very articulate.
Very well said. Few words say a lot. I love statements like this. It was said recently on one of our myriad shows on the network. Who said it? Paul Greenberg. Who said this?
I don't have a friggin' clue. Right. And again, I might have even said it, but I'm that's way too short for me. So I couldn't possibly. The only person I can eliminate here is me, right? Because it's way too compact.
All right. So I take that as you don't know. So here is who said it.
Informs people, stories move people, but experiences compel people. Sometimes you can't do all three, and ideally I'd like to do all three, show them the data, tell them some stories, and then go and help them experience some of the problems that they've faced, because then you start to get real connection to some of the experiences that people are having. Also kind of sharing stories from other places about other things that other people have done that's relevant to what they're doing. So then you get to the kind of point where you're really addressing the social phobia side of things, where people have a fear of being first in many ways. This is not a madcap idea that I'm having. This is something that's been done before, and I'm thinking that you can possibly apply this, customize it for your situation. To your point, Steve, that you raised, who wants to be first? Everybody's hand goes up. Who wants to do something different? All the hands come down. People want to be out first. They want to be out front. They want to lead, but they want a tried and tested and proven sort of like kind of thing to follow. Kind of going like, people don't explore. They don't go off into the kind of the wilderness. They kind of like to the beach, make trail and all that type of stuff. They like to follow maps. It takes away that sort of fear of it all, and I think that's part of it.
All right, so our buddy Adrian Swinsko, and let me give the credit here. There it is. Well, there it is. There. All right. Adrian, and he said that on the first episode of In the Hot Seat that aired Monday, not the pilot,
the first
real
episode. Right.
The first. So the trivia question for what was the first ever show to air on PPN would be In the Hot Seat then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. In the Hot Seat, live streamed. Yeah, what was it? Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, it's available on the website. It's available on the YouTube channel for you to watch. I would highly recommend. Adrian is, aside from being brilliant, and he's got this very compelling edge to him, even though he does it in the most British understated terms ever. But he's very edgy in his own way, and his book Punk XL is fantastic, and it's uniquely formatted too. So watch Adrian with host Steve LeMay and Mike Fawcett from Monday. It was on Monday, 1 o'clock. You'll find it on LinkedIn. You'll find a clip or two. I guess you'll find that clip up, given that was the clip, I would imagine. And one other thing. Every 2 Mondays at 1 p.m., you'll be able to watch the show live, and you'll see notices going up. So, In the Hot Seat. Brought to you by PPN. One last thing. Can you go back to Adrian's TSIA quote for a minute? Put it back up. The TSIA conference thing. It's about not Adrian. Adrian Spire, not Adrian Swinsko.
Oh, okay.
His comment.
Which one?
The one where he talks about the TSIA conference.
Is it?
Yeah. Adrian, we will be in Vegas just at Oracle's conference exactly those days. So if you want to set some time up, you can probably make it.
Isn't
letting you know.
Adobe Max also going on about that same time?
It's literally the day, 18th to the 20th. So yes.
Is
that in Vegas too?
I don't know. It's usually in LA or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's in LA. So, all right. Yeah. So Adrian, hopefully we'll see you there.
All right. One last thing to do. Next, this is cool. Next Wednesday, I'm gonna have a conversation with a real growing TikTok personality. He just so happens to be the son of a buddy of mine,
who's by the way a diehard Yankees fan.
Yeah, very much so. A diehard Yankees fan. His son is Jeb the Boxsmith. Jeb has been on TikTok for just not that long, a little over a year. I first talked to him in July of last year. He had just been at it for a couple of months, and he already had 60,000 followers on TikTok. Now he's got 360,000 followers on TikTok. And I shot a link to Paul of one of his recent videos. The kid's got 2.4 million views of just for that one video. What he does is he literally makes swords and weapons out of boxes. So all these games, video games that people play, and they're using, some of this stuff is really bloody too, but they're using all these swords and things. He makes those same things out of boxes, and he's done several TikTok videos of him making all these different unique like swords, like I said, and hammers and all. It's amazing. He's only like 18 and he's already on his way. So instead of talking to all us old geezers who like to talk about, oh, this is the hot trend, I'm going to talk to a kid, a young man who's actually doing it, getting sponsorship from Amazon and things like that. So we're going to hear from him. I'm going to sit down and actually get the real scoop from somebody who's actually doing it. So if you're interested in TikTok, cool. Check us out. Check me out. A few good minutes next week. Brought to you by PPN. All right. I think we're ready, huh?
Yep.
All right. You want to, you got to do some kind of an intro, because everybody that comes on the show, part of the deal is they want you to do an intro.
Oh, this one's so easy. This guy, okay, so you already know it's Anand Thaker because we've kind of said it about 5 times. But let me tell you something. His nickname is Midas and Martech. What you have another one? The golden. What do you call him?
Oh, the Golden Smog.
The Golden Smog. Brent's nickname for him, which I love. It's my favorite. This man is brilliant. Okay, he's brilliant because he not only knows the MarTech industry, but he also knows pretty much 98% of all other industries and how to not only access them, but how to literally understand them in a way that actually a human being can understand. He knows he's a thought leader. He's also one of the kindest, nicest people, who's most positive human beings I've ever met in my life. I mean, he doesn't have he can be critical, but it's never put in a form that is bad. It's never malicious, malignant. It's not even tiny bit mean. Nothing. It's like a form where, yes, you might have done this incorrectly, but here's a way you can do it well, and hopefully this will provide value to you. That's pretty much the form this guy talks in every way, shape, and form. And he's just sort of this all-around amazing person. And again, his knowledge is next to none. So Brent, and he's a play in residence, of course, which is a highly coveted position.
Wow, look at that background.
I know.
Yeah, I'm testing different backgrounds and seeing which ones work. It's this work in progress. It is so great to be back. Brent, Paul, I know I've been disconnected. I've been on a hiatus. Been trying to shop for a home, which has taken like all my bandwidth, brain power that I have. Oh my gosh, it is.
Oh, that's a blueprint of your new house behind you.
That's right.
Actually, he's in his new studio. He's got his own specialized space that his wife let him have to set up his own studio. So there it is.
Well, she didn't let me have it. It was more like go over there and be away. And it was so, but she, all the kind things that you said about me, Paul, about how to basically have a velvet hammer. She is definitely one. So, but no, it's great. Like this was a bonus to have this shed that was turned into a finished like clubhouse in a sense. And now I want to take it to the next level and turn it into, so it's a work in progress, but turn it into like a somewhat of a mini studio. And business ideas are welcome about how to like do something more than just me coming on the Playaz once in a while, and so, but yeah, with that said, I mean, it's just nice to be back. It's been a while. It has been a while, and it's been a while since I've talked to both of you. So,
I know.
well, Brent, it was maybe yesterday, but Paul,
Seems like a long time though, because you're so
But
close.
oh my gosh, yeah. So congratulations on launching PPN. I'm so happy for you. I know how long it's been in the works, and I can't tell you how I think it's a perfect venture. I think both for you both and for the industry, more importantly, in terms of having a gravity of well of information and people and an ecosystem that everyone can share knowledge and gain a great deal of wisdom out of it. So.
Well, we appreciate you taking time. You are doing a lot of stuff, but I saw something on LinkedIn where you were talking about, I don't know, I think it was some PE companies were looking to try to figure out who they should hire as CMO for some of their investments. And they came to you for you to help them kind of determine, how do you select the right people, what kind of questions you ask. And then I think you even jumped on and you started doing I was going to say Torquemada Inquisition, but I'm probably not that far into that kind of thing. But you wrote this really interesting post on LinkedIn that talked about, some of the findings, some of the things that you were finding and some of the, I don't know, some of the answers you were getting and some of just the overall, wow, this is where we are with hiring CMOs now. Why don't you talk a little bit about, what you're doing to help these companies? You don't have to be specific, or if you want to, you can, but what led you to write that post?
Yeah, so the background has been since the last year or so. I've been sort of the problem solver for some of these investment firms, whether they were used to be VCs, worked with them very regularly, and then lately, over the last, I'd say, year and a half, 18 months, almost 2 years, private equity has come into the picture, and I've been introduced to a number of the folks that are there, from LPs as well as other companies, and people also in the industry. And one of the things I always take an approach with the industry is an investor mindset. I mean, it sounds greedy, but one of the things is, at the end of the day, right, to thrive and be resilient, you want to be able to have smart growth. And lately, especially the last 2 years, it's been nonstop increase of funding, crazy valuations, as everybody knows. And it was unsustainable beforehand, and then the COVID hit, and then this became started to become a rocket ship. So there was a sort of another post and some writings and a couple of talks I talk about that private equity is going to start to outshine VC in terms of changing the dynamic of how companies, especially high growth companies, are looking at the future of how they approach their growth. And now it's more of that resilient growth. How do we become effective in making that growth, generate profits so that we don't have to completely be on the VC drip or the constant investor drip? And how do we make sure that we retain the right kind of people at an affordable, like an effective and efficient way, so that they will stay and we have the right people? Because if you've heard the cliche of getting the right people on the right bus, it's great. But if you have to take multiple stops, it'll take you, 2 hours to get to the destination that normally takes 15 minutes, because these people are getting on and off. And so over the last couple of months, I was approached by 3 VC firms, and 2 I was already working with very passively, or just kind of as an advisor. And they were looking for CMOs, as they had both acquired companies as well as are thinking about, making some transitions and transformations with some of the companies in their portfolios. And they appreciated the, kind of the perspective of how I think about marketing, how it's more than just, a siloed organization, what kind of people it takes to get into that, to be able to navigate that, both in terms of high growth capacity, but also in a resilience capacity. So, so I was involved in, I would say, almost like 24 different candidate interviews, read, a number of, sort of pitches of their backgrounds and their CVs. And it was fascinating, because all the candidates were stellar candidates. So how do we determine who would be ideal for these particular roles? And on paper, they looked ideal. So how do we first figure out are they truly what they are on paper? And then secondly, what differentiates them to get us to a point where we can find a short list. And so what came out of that was at least a super, super short, like 1, 2, 3, candidates we'd have in in 3 of these companies or 4 of these companies. And the post was just basically some interesting observations about the CMOs and the CMO process of finding a CMO that was different from what you hear from other people. Some of it's similar, some of it's most people would agree with. There's a couple of things people are thinking, this is this is kind of controversial what you're trying to bring to the table, but we're talking about companies who need to sustain for a through an uncertain period of time and have demonstrated some resilience even beforehand and need to continue moving forward afterwards. So so the post kind of just emerged from that, and I just wanted to give tips. I don't like just giving out advice. I'm like, if there's more details and meat that we can share about what they might be able to do or what we saw that helped us determine why that particular point was useful, I just wanted to expand on that as well. So
what did you look at as like a demonstration of resilience for a CMO?
Oh, yeah, it was there's two places where we saw a lot of that. One was the easy one. You see that there is a huge turnover. Like say, maybe there's another round of funding. Perhaps there was lots of layoffs or cutbacks. Maybe there was a whole new executive team. And did this marketing leader, navigate through this? Or, how do they navigate through this? Or how do they kind of emerge from the hole that has been dug and get out and around it? What was their contribution to that? And we had access to people, obviously directly from referrals, but also we have our own network, or I have my own network of people that I can always talk about, around the corners and behind the scenes of, was this really the case? Was this candidate really the person who led the charge and, kind of getting out from under these, very challenging times, or getting through the company through those challenging times? That's one of them. The other one was, if they failed themselves, one is, would they be admittedly take pride in the fact that there was some challenges that they just they never knew that they have ever encountered before, didn't have that experience, kind of just didn't really make it work the ideal or most optimal situation, but quickly found ways to get out of it, whether it's going to get help, whether it's going and learning everything you can about something, whether it's taking like a weekend off. One of the candidates took a 4-day weekend, just went away and just talked to a bunch of people in her network, and had like this very intense, session and series of conversations with people about her situation. And she was bringing up like, hey, listen, this is confidential, but I have to share the details with you because I need to navigate through this. And I'm not looking for an answer. I'm looking for if you ran into something similar and how did you, handle getting through this? And she's really good. She is the top candidate for one of the companies. And if you look at her background, it's nearly spotless, but when you have conversations with her, you realize that she will give the bad with the good. And it's very refreshing, because you want someone not that had a perfect situation, got $50 million in funding, and then had a lot of money to spend. It's also, how did you handle some of the more challenging situations with regards to, a new initiative, a new management team, a new set of investors, new boards, or maybe external factors, obviously that we've seen over the last 3 years.
Well, you covered a lot of ground on that one. But let's talk about what the role of CMO means now compared to maybe even before the pandemic, and how does that shape the kind of traits and characteristics and experiences that are going to make for a successful CMO at a PE company where I'm assuming growth is like the number one thing that they're needing.
So I'll kind of work backwards. Like, growth is what they need, but they need a, more sustainable growth, right? So now I think you've been to enough of these conferences, or you're going to them. They're going to talk about sustainable growth. They'll talk about profitability is not so bad anymore, right? Like, they're talking about, yeah, exactly. So, these are things that are saying, listen, we're not just throwing money at everything, which means that, okay, your mindset needs to change. it's not about trying to, buy the best tools or hire the best people. It's sometimes looking internal resources, reconfiguring assets, or, even being very innovative in how you're growing. So that's kind of, when we talk about growth, we're talking about generating, a value for a company that's based on what I think is real numbers, real returns internally, because there's an engine that's, kind of perpetually, providing its own sustainable, motion. So, but the CMO, what it's changed is people have realized that the digital capabilities are not up to spec. And a lot of times they will buy the work with firms, organizations, vendors to have that done very quickly. But then there's this missing component of the people, experiencing those interactions online. And so, whether you're an online company, offline, you're a brick and mortar store who's going straight online, or if you're a B2B company who pretty much can't go to events to sell and make long-term deal, larger sales, enterprise type sales, the whole thing shifts. And so how do, these chief marketing officers have been without a lot of their usual tools in their toolbox, and have had to narrow down to a few areas that they've now needed to expand, which is, digital, being able to create virtual events, building communities, right? So Adrian's book is going to be spot on and resonate with a lot of people. With the privacy matters that have been coming up, that's going to be a real challenge. So now you've got to own your own data, which I'm really a fan of. Like, brands have been outsourcing that information, and so that they can, so other people can go orchestrate their stories and navigate those experiences. But the reality is, the more insight you have for your brand, it's not just a controlling the brand, but it's also navigating the community. And that's also been a investable trait, right? So this idea of building communities, or building a deeper relationship with your consumers, or deeper relationship with partners and ecosystems has changed. The other second thing, there's three things. So the second one has been partners. Partners have been critical in being able to have, more growth at a larger scale, whether it's, single digit growth at larger places, or it's, triple digit growth at mid to small companies with, high growth trajectories. Without partners are basic extensions of your salespeople, right? So it's building relationships with them, finding ways to co-market, finding ways to go after similar deals. I think you saw some of that with Salesforce, talking about Snowflake and Genie and, all of that as well, and realizing that, trying to be data centers is probably not their play, but working with partners has been. And this is something that Microsoft has had the playbook in for a long, long time. Their relationships with Adobe, their relationships with other, firms that are out there. They're like, listen, we can't own the world, but we can certainly be a very strong hub, for a sense of purpose in that capacity. So where CMOs have had to start playing parts of those roles, not just, hey, I've got a partner manager who's handling the partner ecosystem, and just, be ignorant of that. There is a cohesive strategy now that relates to it. And then the last thing that I think, and there's a few others, but I mean, the last thing I'll probably share has been the digital capabilities and understanding of a CMO. It is truly like, I need to be both very operationally driven and understand that operations, find the right people to navigate and handle those pieces. But then also the creativity is still not lost, right? I think that there is something to be said about storytelling. There's still something to be said about being able to have a cohesive brand strategy and a cohesive message that goes out to the marketplace, because it incorporates now a purpose. It incorporates, if there are challenges in the dynamics of the communities that they're involved in, how are they going to respond? Where are they going to respond? And then educating the other decision makers at the company, which actually is kind of like a 3A or a 4. The best CMO candidates are ones who really understood the decision-making paradigms of the other executives, and were able to, immerse themselves into that as well. I don't want to say that they're jack of all trades. They're not, right? I think a lot of people will use that terminology for CMOs, or they're becoming one. That's not true. The idea of a brand has just changed, and what the CMO's role in that has just become more broad in terms of, being able to accomplish that.
What about, you're dealing, it's interesting because, not to the extent you are, but I'm a lot of companies have called me when they're looking for new CMOs and they ask me about XYZ and this and that. And the thing I always, when I look at when I'm finding out the reasons for them to let the current one go, it's always interesting because it's even though it's, let's call it skills enunciated, it's actually personality based. Meaning, so for example, if I'm really broadly categorizing, there's some CMOs who are fantastic as a public face of the company. Operationally, they're terrible. Then there are CMOs who are insanely good operationally as public faces. They're not necessarily terrible, but they're shy, right? Or but operationally, they can take a department and make it happen. And the other aspect that's always impacted that when it's come into it was, given that, at least from the various stuff I've been looking at, there's been a significant increase in the alignment of sales and marketing and, common rules of engagement, common decisions on definitions, like when a handoff occurs and so on and so forth. Also common objectives being set so that marketing becomes responsible in some way for some form of revenue, and all of these things impact the decision on the CMO. I should say, the other side is just sheer personality. Because one thing I've continually been on the let's destroy the idea of selling to personas, right, and marketing to personas, because you don't sell to job titles, you sell to actual people. And within that context, if I'm looking at almost a paradigmatic position that has the most disparate personalities, it's CMO. I mean, there's no two CMOs I met who even vaguely alike. They may have some common rules that they have to follow at their companies, but how do you deal with all of? I mean, I just laid out a lot of ththings to deal with in that one. How did you deal with all of those things?
I tried to spend a lot of time, and I encourage like either the CEO or maybe one of the board members that's brought us on board, or brought me and a few other people. We try to spend a lot of time with the company, or as much as of other people in the company, because there's a lot of times where there is a sort of a textbook definition of what you want your CMO to be, but the reality is you don't need all of that. You need a subset of this that is going to execute for at least 5 years in that capacity. And then who knows, the company could change or be different by that particular time frame. So understanding more about the better you know yourself, the more you can rule the world type of a phrasing. And so really helping them understand who they are. So we'll like some of us, me, or if it's just me or it's me and some other people, we'll actually go or I'll propose that we go and explore the company, determine what we think it is, come to an agreement about that. And then we'll talk to the executive team and the board and say, listen, tell us, here's what tell us what you think, write it on a piece of paper. And then we're going to share with you what we have. And then let's see what the difference looks like. And then let's talk about that. And a lot of times, things that were on the same page, that's great. Now we know that they're looking for that kind of a candidate. Those elements we can see in common about that candidate. But the difference is we need to talk about it, because we could be wrong about, we're not seeing something potentially. They may not be seeing something that we happen to catch, and we need to understand what that might be, and then determine those particular traits or maybe personalities that we would need as a result of it. So it's more than just the interview. A friend of mine, and it's guy's like a genius. He's smart in terms of performance talent and talent management, or more like performance talent. Performance talent is his name is Drew Fortin. He has a firm called Elevate Leverage Talent, and we were talking about this day before yesterday, and we were talking about. He said that, I love his quote. He said, a lot of people consider the interview as the sort of the instance where you determine all these things, but it's only one data point versus your own reflection of what's going on in your own company, and it's true. So you have to know thyself before you can, figure out which direction you want to go. And that doesn't go that not. And the reason that works for CMOs is it's also like if you're trying to figure out your sense of purpose, that is what you need to do is that self-reflection and across the board. And what you do need, you can't do it yourself. You do have to have objective, points and information or data points for that, whether it's through the customer, through your partners, your own team members, maybe even your investors. I mean, there's a lot of dimensions that you really have to take into consideration before you really sit down and say, all right, let's figure out, here's the job description of a CMO, right? There's some commonalities in a lot of that, but then here's kind of what we're looking for in terms of, aggressiveness or more empathy or more operations or more, creativity or, whatever the 24 dimensions that we usually are looking into or less than that. But but it starts with the company itself, really understanding who you are. Otherwise you're just hiring what someone else hires and you're keeping up with, your competitors, and that fit may work for them, but it might not be a good fit for you.
So we just got back from Dreamforce last week, and they have done a masterful job of kind of making, bringing back the physical component while fully integrating the virtual experience with Salesforce Plus. They're churning out content. They're experimenting on different kinds of content. HubSpot, they put together through acquisition and some organic stuff. They do the HubSpot podcast network. So you're seeing, at least, some of these in our industry, these tech platforms also becoming streaming services and media outlets. What role does that play in the modern CMO of a tech company that a PE is investing lots of money in? Are they looking for a CMO talent with an eye on being able to do some of that, all of that, none of that? Where does that fit in?
I mean, if there is a strong community, it's already embedded into the CMO, search criteria, right? Like that's something we need to see, that either they've had some experience either building one or having an experience of navigating one. And it's not just a small little, Discord group or, little, LinkedIn group. We're talking about a real community where there is, it's a living, breathing organism on its own within its company. So we've talked about this before. It's content, education, and oh my gosh, I've slipped the third one. There's a third piece, community, right? So those three really are intertwined assets for a company to be able to build on, that's used by the entire ecosystem. And since we're talking about ecosystems, those are your interfaces. And in a sense, that's kind of the brand control that we're talking about. The brand that you're building is those components. It's no longer, traditionally no longer the logo and the motto and all these kinds of things, the commercials and the ads, right? It's this active, living, breathing, components that are out there. So yes, the streaming element is a higher, richer form of interaction, not only to give a constant, ongoing, content creation, education, information, but it's also a way for them to see the reaction to their community, people who are either customers or not, about those particular topics or, those particular sessions. And the more content you create, not that it's always good, but if you're smart about how much more you're creating that content with the intention of listening and hearing what's going on, it's a very valuable tool, far more than any of the digital data, platforms that aggregate, data about an individual. The reaction and interaction is, and the experiences, right, Paul? I mean, that's it came from your book, right? I mean, it's about these things that really helps us understand how we are doing or how they are doing as a company. And that helps, obviously investors understand whether those reactions and interactions are growing and broadening which creates a greater value for these companies.
What about the fact, though, that in the midst of all this going on, they're attempting to, let's say it's not, let me rephrase it. They're beginning to attempt to change the name of the CMO to Chief Growth Officer, occasionally even Chief Revenue Officer. Make no sense. And well, actually none of them make any sense. But there may be a purpose behind it that's useful. I haven't found it yet. Like I know of companies that literally don't have CMOs. They have chief growth officers or some other rename. And then what that to me tends to just confuse people, right? Because they want to talk to a marketing lead and they don't know what a growth lead is or a revenue lead is per se. And if you think revenue lead, well, that's usually sales, but they don't know. So are you running into that as an issue in recruitment? Like either company or the person says, like there is one very specific company, which I won't mention, that literally is deliberately changing, and it's a big, big company, but it's changing the name of CMO to, I forget, Chief something else officer, right? CSEO, right? And this is a big, big company. And the reason is that the person who's taking the role on doesn't want the title because they know the short life of a CMO.
Which is now down to 39 months now. So
I thought it was less than that, but
Oh,
even so,
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, that
Right.
Words have meaning. So you don't just sort of change names because you want to or feel like it.
Right.
I mean, they have.
Right.
So how do you deal with the fact that seems to be at least something that is noticeable at this point as opposed to rampant?
We could probably have a session all about the evolution of what marketing CMO really represents, but I think you are touching on a point, this is a great question because it's touching on that point of how much has marketing evolved and how companies are not thinking of marketing beyond that particular silo. So it's a twofold problem, or a two-sided coin, two sides of the same coin, which is no one really understands what marketing should play. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that marketing is growing. That department, that group, the charter, what they're responsible for is not only growing, but it also has evolved into having multiple flavors. Right. We've all three even talked about different kinds of CMOs and what their primary responsibilities would be. So it's natural. I mean, I kind of go with the flow. I agree with you. It is challenging and it is sometimes, nuanced and more of a flair as opposed to a true, genuine thing. I have recommended CMOs becoming chief growth officers because I have still this belief that the person who owns the customer can be the CEO of a company. And so that whoever takes ownership of that really understands the marketplace and understands the dynamics of that really can become a CEO. Now, my own aspirations, I constantly run into a lot of CMOs or people who run into CMOs who really challenge my vision of that they will ever grow out of that. But if you think about it, marketing used to have, and for a long time, a very defined scope. They were never in board meetings. They were barely in executive sessions, and their job was to buy ads and work with creative agencies to create ads. And there was very little. It was a broadcast only type of role. But now that now that it's become not only an interactive, a role to interact with the marketplace, interact with customers, but also interact with other departments, and interact with different types of channels and capabilities that they've never had before. So I get the challenge of doing that. Then if you want to retain a CMO who realizes, like you said before, that they don't want to be necessarily just a CMO, or they want to be recognized, for their accomplishments outside of having these accolades that are given to them because they just happen to spend a lot of money with that vendor or that, ad agency, or have that great relationship with them, is chief growth officer, chief revenue officer, really trying to expand the role of what chief marketing does. And so I think you will continue to see, I think one thing that's started to happen is chief revenue officer means you're responsible for just revenue, which more times than not has been the salesperson. And then they would have marketing role under them. Right. And so a lot of people who become, if they were CMOs and are going to CROs, those chief marketing officers, 99 times out of 10 had a sales history. And so there was a salesperson that may have left, and then they took on that role or become CRO, and then they have a VP of marketing, and then they're taking on, the revenue responsibilities for a company. So that's one angle. And then the chief growth officer, since we talked about it, the reason I like that one a little bit better is they're responsible for the top line growth of the pipeline, in a sense, for the lack of a better word, right? Increasing brand awareness, making sure more customers are interacting. Yes, there is a retention piece that tends to get lost in the weeds for the marketing side, but then they don't have as much control over the services or the professional services aspects of those, so they may actually end up coming around to that point. But I think the idea of a chief growth officer really brings marketing into, hey, look, there's closing deals, but then there's actually getting deals to the table, and people being aware that we should be the person that you bring to the table. Or for a consumer side, even in consideration, if I'm buying a phone or a car or a makeup item. So we'll continue to see these different types of flavors of marketing, chief marketing officers. But I don't think the chief marketing officer will go away. One of my predictions is that it will all collapse back onto itself, and marketing itself won't be the same accepted. It won't be the usually widely accepted, definition. It'll be a much broader, reappropriated, definition to that broader spectrum. And then people will have pride or interest and genuine desire to become a CMO. And hopefully the tenures will grow longer because they're responsible. We'll see. But it's a great point. It does create. So I'm sorry, I didn't even answer your question, which was, it is a challenge. But the reality is, if you know what kind of person you're looking for the goals that you're moving forward with, and it is related to brand assets, and like I said, it's not just the logos and messaging, it's the entire community, the content, the ecosystem, and the educational components, and the collaboration with the other departments or the other groups. That will help. I mean, then it doesn't matter what the title is, quite frankly, at that point. They could be CMO today, they could be head of marketing tomorrow, or today, and they can be CMO tomorrow, they could be CRO or CM, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, the focus is, we need to make sure that the market and the customers are top of mind, and we need to get their perspective and see how, and have a better understanding and insight about how they react to our being in the marketplace, along with other players that are out there.
Okay, that hour flew by pretty quickly.
That did go pretty quickly.
I can't let you go though, because you're starting to throw out predictions. You already have one nickname. You're already known as the Midas of Martech. You can't be the Nostradamus of Martech along with the Midas of Martech. So we're gonna have to slow you down on predictions. Just one last thing. So are they hiring CMOs now with the thought of them potentially becoming CEOs, or is that still kind of separate?
That's still separate. I like the aspiration, because if you were thinking about, like I said, if it revolves around the customer and relationships, those broad scaling relationships is really the core of what marketing is supposed to be doing. And having those relationships are the most critical asset and value for a company. That we talk about trust, we talk about purpose, we talk about these things. I mean, that's to develop better relationships with the right members of the community to be a part of your company, whether they're customers or partners or whatnot. So I'd love to see more CMOs truly do aspire to become CEOs, or to see more this case, that there is a desire by the boards and the other executives to see chief marketing officers as a stepping stone to becoming a CEO. And some have made it, right? I mean, we're talking about like former CEO of Starbucks and former CEO of Pepsi is just a couple of examples. I've got a list that I can't even think of at the moment, but there are members that can do that. And the reason they elevated to those levels is precisely because they were successful at developing the relationships and understanding the consumer psyche. So that is the case. Yeah. And so I don't need any more nicknames. You're totally right. The Martech has been a really wonderful flavor, lens for me to understand which companies to navigate investments to, which companies are really adopting and becoming a long-standing success, as well as leaders themselves who understand the limitations and the opportunities with these technologies. And so it's great to have that as a lens for a lot of different avenues. And that's why I get roped into a lot of things that are well beyond MarTech and well beyond the scope of you would expect. But I still love the name. And, like I said, mentor gave it to me after we reached that crazy milestone. And so But it's been very, very useful, and there's still a lot of work to be done, both in terms of digital adoption, and companies and how they interact with their customers. But I think we are starting to. COVID really did accelerate a lot of things. I mean, that is one of those assessments that is spot on. Sometimes when you feel a lot of pain, you find a way, you navigate through with a very different mindset. Right, it's not the status quo anymore.
Right. Well, so you heard it here first, folks. He is still the Midas of MarTech, not the Nostradamus of MarTech. He's sticking to the Midas. So,
but he also still has the golden smog.
And he's the golden smog. Yeah. So you got enough titles, nicknames. Yeah, we won't add it. and one of the more significant titles, Playa in Residence.
Playa in Residence, PIR.
Right.
I will always wear that.
Highly coveted position.
It is.
All right. So we went long, but it was good.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's fantastic to be here. So after so much time, so hopefully we won't be strangers. We'll start to ramp up again.
Yeah, and we're ready. Anytime you're ready, we're ready.
All right,
sure.
Let's make that happen.
Well, I'll say one thing too: is we went long, which is one more time than the New York Giants have the entire year.
So I'm rooting for the Braves. Does that mean that I'm also rooting for the Yankees because I want the Mets to keep losing? Or is that how it works? Or
no, because it doesn't really.
There's no connection there.
There's no connection between the Mets and.
It's just a matter of we're rooting for the Yankees to get to the World Series.
You see how I think, right? It's just like, all right, let's figure out.
Yeah, you better turn back around and study that a little longer.
See, data-driven stuff doesn't mean that it's always going to be right.
The Boethius of baseball.
That was not Einstein's theory of Yankee-Met relativity there.
That's right.
Is that the next book, Paul?
Yeah.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Midas of MarTech and the godfather of CRM, I'm just Brent Leary. So
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I'm Anand Thaker.
Oh, that's right.
No, he's playing.
I can say it. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
I'm just conditioned now. You conditioned.
No, you should be saying it, guest or not.
Even though I'm sort of a host, I mean, sort of a guest today.
That doesn't matter. Okay, Brent, let's take two.
All right. So since he's a pseudo guest, I have to do the on behalf of, right? So on behalf of the Midas of MarTech.
No, actually, no.
But that's what I do at the end of everything.
I know, but he's a player in residence, so he gets to say, and I'm Anand Thaker.
Well, then.
Oh, so you have to do it twice. I see what you're saying. You're going to literally have to say on behalf of yourself,
Anand. Guest.
Oh
no, but he's also okay.
All right,
so
folks,
here's what we do.
I got it.
I'm okay with that. With my own
no, I
name
got it. Wait a minute, I got it. So basically, Anand, the only thing that has to happen is you have to be relatively ready to basically say you're Anand Thaker on behalf of Anand Thaker. That's your part of it, right? You don't have to say Brent will say on behalf of Anand Thaker. Then I'm Brent Leary. I'm Paul Greenberg, and I'm Anand Thaker, right?
Gotcha.
That's it. All right, Brent, take three.
I'm done. I'm Brent Leary. You guys can say it.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I'm Anand Thaker, and this was brought to you by PPN.
Perfect. The voiceover
so is me. And on that note, we will see you next week, sometime, somewhere. Go ahead and say it. I want to hear you say it. This is PNN.
This is PPN.
All right, there it is. We got to get that recorded somewhere. All right. See you later, folks.